The anime begins with a quick look at Tokyo in 2021, a city that suffered greatly from the Gastrea epidemic, a dangerous virus. This virus forced people to seek safety behind enormous walls made of Baranuim, a special metal that keeps Gastrea monsters away. In the middle of all this chaos was Satomi Rentaro, a man who seemed overwhelmed by despair. Around him, people were living in makeshift tents, trying to stay safe from Gastrea attacks. In the distance, smoke billowed up and fighter planes flew in the sky, fighting against Gastrea. Suddenly, one of the planes crashed during an evacuation. Immediately, the military sprang into action to defeat the creature, causing fear among the residents. Despite the chaos, Rentaro, who had stumbled during the confusion, was determined to keep on surviving. Fast forward 10 years, Rentaro is now a high school student working for the Tendo Civil Securities Service, alongside his partner, Aihara Enju. Enju has extraordinary abilities because she is a cursed child, born with the Gastrea virus inside her from her infected mother. Together, Rentaro and Enju team up to fight against these dangerous creatures. One day, Inspector Tadashima Toku receives intel regarding Gastrea activity, prompting Rentaro and him to investigate a suspect apartment. Outside, they encounter police officers securing the area. Inside, they find 2 dead officers and a masked person who claims to hunt Gastrea but poses a threat to others. Despite Rentaro's efforts to confront him, the masked man proves agile and strong, eluding capture and ominously declaring his intent to cause destruction. Meanwhile, Enju becomes annoyed with Rentaro for leaving her behind and ventures out alone. Along the way, she encounters a man transforming into a Gastrea monster. Fortunately, Rentaro and Toku arrive in time to immobilize the creature with Baranuim bullets, allowing Enju to deliver a decisive blow with her powerful kick. Later, Rentaro returns to the office and faces his boss, Tendo Kisara, who is annoyed because he forgot to request funds from the police to buy discounted bean sprouts. She expresses frustration over the office's financial woes due to unreliable employees like him. In the evening, Rentaro and Enju enjoyed their dinner, relishing various dishes made with bean sprouts they had bought earlier. The next morning, Rentaro cycled to his school and then accompanied Enju to hers, which was situated elsewhere. Along the way, Rentaro expressed his desire for them to attend the same school someday, worried about Enju having to hide her identity as a cursed child. Enju assured him, mentioning that her friends were unaware of her true nature, easing his concerns. While in class, Rentaro received a call from Kisara, informing him of a meeting at the Ministry of Defense. Upon arrival, they found government officials from Tokyo gathered, along with other promoters and their initiators. Soon, Seitensi, the head of the Tokyo government, and her advisor, Tendu Kikunojo, appeared on a large screen, assigning a mission to the officials and their promoters to eliminate Gastrea and recover a suitcase held by one of the creatures. During the briefing, a masked man named Haruko Kagetane entered the room, accompanied by his daughter, Haruko Kohina, who was his initiator. He declared his intention to join the mission to obtain the suitcase containing the 7-star inheritance. Recognizing Kagetane as a threat, the room erupted in gunfire, but he shielded himself with a transparent barrier, revealing that most of his body was coated with Baranuim. Kagetane revealed his past involvement with the Eastern Army's Special Mechanized Unit 787, which specialized in dealing with Gastrea issues, shocking the government officers present. During the chaos, Kagetane fired shots in every direction, incapacitating everyone before leaving and dropping off a box for Rentaro. Meanwhile, news spread of a high-ranking official being brutally murdered, their head severed. Upon noticing the box now tainted with fresh blood, Rentaro became suspicious, fearing that the official's head might be inside. On the screen, Seitensi stressed the importance of retrieving the suitcase, cautioning about its potential to breach the monolith wall if it fell into the wrong hands, leading to a catastrophic Gastrea attack capable of wiping out humanity. Several days later, Rentaro and Enju encountered a girl being chased by security guards in the marketplace. Accused of theft and nearly harmed, the girl, also a fellow cursed child, begged Enju for help, but Rentaro intervened, resulting in her capture by the guards. Seeing Enju distressed, Rentaro decided to follow the guards to their destination, eventually arriving at an abandoned building where he witnessed them mistreating the girl, subjecting her to physical abuse and even firing shots before leaving her injured but alive. Rushing her to the hospital, Rentaro ensured she received proper medical care, relieved to hear from the doctor that she had a strong immune system. Taking care of her medical bills, Rentaro entrusted her to the doctor's care, determined to ensure her safety and well-being. As Rentaro walked home, he worried about his increasing expenses, especially the hospital bills for the girl's treatment. While strolling along a quiet street, he was suddenly confronted by Kagane, who pointed a gun at him. Acting quickly, Rentaro disarmed the masked attacker and gained control of the situation. Kagane then called upon his daughter, Kohina, instructing her to cut off Rentaro's arm. Just as Kohina was about to strike, Enju intervened, stopping the attack. Kagane proposed a partnership with Rentaro for a mission and shared his perspective on the struggles faced by Tokyo, stirring memories of how society mistreated cursed children. Despite Kagane offering him money, Rentaro refused, shooting the cash into the suitcase. Upon hearing approaching police sirens, Kagane decided to leave, urging Rentaro to visit Enju's school the next day to uncover community issues. Kagane expressed admiration for Rentaro and Enju, causing him to hesitate in confronting them. The following day at school, Rentaro heard rumors about Enju's status as a cursed child. He sought clarification from Tan-nin, a teacher, who revealed that Enju had left class after her friends discovered the rumors. Hurrying home, Rentaro searched for Enju without success, leading him to an underground channel where he encountered Matsuzuki, the caretaker of the cursed children. Showing Matsuzuki a photo of Enju, Rentaro asked about her whereabouts, but Matsuzuki claimed ignorance. Surprisingly, Matsuzuki suggested finding a new initiator to replace Enju, much to Rentaro's dismay at the idea of treating the cursed children as mere tools. Reflecting on his experiences with Enju, Rentaro made the decision to leave. Shortly after Rentaro left, Matsuzuki revealed to Enju, who was in hiding, Rentaro's kindness, and questioned her decision to part ways with her fellow promoter. In another encounter, Rentaro, determined, met with Professor Naruto Sumire to discuss Enju's situation. Shortly after their talk, Tan-nin called Rentaro, informing him that Enju was at school. Without hesitation, Rentaro rushed to Enju's school, where she faced rejection from her friends, including her closest companion, who chose to distance themselves. Despite Rentaro's offer to find another school for her, Enju declined, having formed strong bonds with her current friends. Meanwhile, a helicopter sent by Kisar arrived and transported Rentaro and Enju to the location where Gastrea had been spotted. Kisar briefed them on the creature's appearance in the forest, prompting Rentaro and Enju to take immediate action. As the helicopter flew over the forest, Enju spotted the Gastrea below and quickly engaged it in combat. Rentaro asked the pilot to lower the helicopter so he could descend using a rope. Using Enju's remarkable abilities, they successfully incapacitated the creature and retrieved the suitcase from its body. Tears filled Enju's eyes as she ran towards Rentaro, deeply saddened by the hostility directed towards him despite his heroic deeds. Rentaro tried to comfort her, promising his unwavering support. However, just as Rentaro reached for the suitcase, Kagane suddenly appeared and grabbed it. Despite Rentaro's attempts to get it back, he was struck by Kagane's sword. Even when Kagane found himself cornered, he resorted to shooting Rentaro, causing him to fall into the river below the cliff. Sometime later, Rentaro, who miraculously survived, woke up. Kisara, who had been looking after him, explained that he had been unconscious for a day and revealed that the suitcase taken by Kagane contained a catalyst capable of summoning a dangerous Stage 5 Gastrea, posing a threat to humanity. Despite feeling restless and eager to act, Kisara insisted that Rentaro should focus on resting until he fully recovered. Overwhelmed with guilt, Rentaro apologized for failing to retrieve the suitcase. Kisara advised him to also apologize to Enju, who was peacefully asleep beside him under the blanket. Seeing the young girl, Rentaro expressed his regrets for causing her distress. Shortly after, Kisara received a call from Seitensi, summoning her for an operation to track down Kagane. As Rentaro's condition improved, Sumire visited his room and provided him with a bag containing weapons and experimental AGV medicine for their joint mission. Outside the hospital, Enju awaited him, and together they boarded a plane along with other promoters. Upon arrival in a forest, the promoters and initiators split up to search for Kagane. While exploring, Rentaro and Enju noticed smoke rising from a hill, indicating a promoter's attempt to attack the Gastrea with explosives. Suddenly, a Gastrea appeared, prompting them to flee and seek refuge in a ravine. Inside the ravine, they met Senju Kahio, an initiator who had become separated from her promoter, Ikuma Shoin. After earning her trust, Rentaro helped Kagyo treat a wound on her arm. Shortly after, Kagyo received a communication, informing her that Shoin had located Kagetane. Without hesitation, the trio headed towards Shoin's location. However, they soon found themselves surrounded by numerous Gastrea. Kagyo urged Rentaro and Enju to continue assisting Shoin while she faced the monsters alone. After a long journey, Rentaro and Enju came across a grim scene scattered with the remains of defeated promoters, including Shoin, who was impaled with a massive sword. Meanwhile, Kagetane and Kohina appeared on the rooftop of a nearby church, ready to confront Rentaro. Meanwhile, Seitensi and other authorities closely observed the promoters in the field, particularly Rentaro. Seitensi contacted Kisara to inquire about Rentaro's capabilities, especially as he faced off against Kagetane. Kisara expressed confidence in Rentaro's abilities, recalling a heroic incident where Rentaro saved her from a Gastrea attack that claimed her parents' lives. Rentaro had shown remarkable courage, willing to sacrifice his limbs and even his left eye to protect her. Following this event, Rentaro underwent surgery at Unit 22, surprising a high-ranking official who was familiar with the unit's operations. As the intense battle between Rentaro and Kagetane unfolded, Rentaro managed to penetrate Kagetane's shield and land a blow on him. Revealing his limbs and eyes made of iridium metal, Rentaro disclosed his past affiliation with the Army's 787 Mech Special Unit. Kagetane chuckled upon realizing their shared background and retaliated by firing shots at Rentaro. Rentaro retreated to the building's rooftop, where Kagetane once again proposed an alliance, but Rentaro firmly refused, continuing his attack until he lost consciousness. Witnessing the conflict, Enju intervened to help her promoter, despite Kagetane's intention to harm her. Rentaro rushed to protect Enju, enduring a severe blow from Kagetane, which left him critically wounded and collapsed. In that crucial moment, Rentaro recalled the experimental medicine provided by Sumire, which was derived from the Gastrea virus and could grant humans regeneration abilities, albeit with a 20% risk of transforming into Gastrea. Despite the danger, Rentaro decided to use the medicine, witnessing his wounds miraculously heal. With renewed strength, he resumed his battle against Kagetane until the masked man was defeated and fell into the ocean below. Seeing Kagetane's demise, Kohina cried out for her father. Rentaro reassured Enju that Kohina was no longer their enemy, recognizing her vulnerability. Shortly after, Rentaro received a message from Kisara, informing him of the successful retrieval of Gastrea's suitcase. However, she warned of the appearance of a Stage 5 Gastrea, urging Rentaro and Enju to hurry to the heavens, an advanced weapon against high-level Gastrea. Upon reaching the machine, Rentaro attempted to activate it for remote operation. Kisara expressed gratitude, but Rentaro discovered the Varanium bullets were empty. This led to a frantic search for ammunition, prompting Rentaro to use his Varanium arm as a bullet. They struggled to operate the weapon directly as it couldn't be controlled remotely. After overcoming obstacles, Rentaro regained his composure and aimed the weapon at the Gastrea, successfully destroying it with a Varanium bullet. Exiting the Heaven's Staircase machine, Rentaro approached Kagyo, who had bravely fought against numerous Gastrea despite severe injuries. Kagyo, realizing her transformation into a Gastrea was inevitable, pleaded with Rentaro to end her life while she remained human. Several days later, Rentaro met with Seitensi to provide a report on the contents of the suitcase recovered from the Gastrea, discovering it only contained a broken tricycle. He also sought clarification about the catalyst mentioned earlier, but Seitensi declined to explain further, leaving him frustrated. Leaving Seitensi's residence, he found Enju waiting for him. Reflecting on Seitensi's mysterious comments, they resolved to strive for higher ranks as promoters and initiators. In Sumire's laboratory, data indicated that Enju's emotional level was significantly elevated, reaching 42.8%. They noted that if her emotional state reached 50%, it could lead to physical harm. Rentaro observed Kisara deeply engrossed in intense independent combat training, demonstrating mastery of various advanced fighting techniques that left him impressed. Not long ago, he and Enju had trained together, during which Rentaro fired bullets at Enju, who skillfully evaded them and delivered a surprising high kick. Later, as Kisara and Rentaro walked home, they discussed Enju's upcoming school enrollment. Rentaro had yet to find a suitable school for her. Kisara suggested enrolling Enju in a school located in an outer district, but Rentaro hesitated due to safety concerns for a young girl like Enju. Kisara then revealed that Seitensi had recruited Rentaro to serve as her bodyguard. The next day, Rentaro went to Seitensi's residence intending to turn down the job offer from the Tokyo head. Despite warnings from several of Seitensi's bodyguards against refusing the job, Rentaro ultimately went back to her and agreed to become her personal bodyguard. He did so because he sensed that Seitensi was in danger, especially with her current bodyguard seemingly having influence over her decisions. On his way home, Rentaro came across a young girl named Tina Sprout who was being bullied. He intervened, using his security badge to stop the bullies, and then sat with Tina on a park bench. Tina explained that she took caffeine pills to stay awake during the day as she was more active at night. Rentaro suggested Tina contact the police station, but she declined, claiming to know where he lived before leaving. Later, Tina received a call from her boss, Ayn Rand, informing her of her successful infiltration of the Tokyo area with a mission to assassinate Seitensi. That night, after making preparations, Tina set out to carry out her mission and encountered several police officers, whom Ayn instructed her to eliminate. Meanwhile, with Rentaro as her bodyguard, Seitensi visited Seitake Sogen, the head of the Osaka district, whom Rentaro considered dangerous. During the meeting, Sugen expressed his desire to transport the Heaven's Ladder weapon to the moon, enabling him to easily destroy Gastrea and dominate the world by threatening various countries with the weapon. Disagreeing with Sogen's proposal, Seitensi left the room. On their way home, Enju, who was also in the car with Rentaro and Seitensi, expressed unease. Rentaro became alert, and suddenly, their car came under attack from a mysterious gunshot. Rentaro swiftly ensured Seitensi's safety and entrusted her to his guard, who escorted her to a secure location. Rentaro and Enju then investigated the attack site, but their assailants had already fled. Meanwhile, Tina reported the failure of her mission due to interference from civilians and wondered who had foiled her that night. A few days later, Rentaro met Tina and brought her some takoyaki, even feeding her since she hadn't eaten the food he brought. Tina expressed gratitude, mentioning Rentaro was the first person to treat her kindly. Shortly after, she received a call from her boss, instructing her to go to a hidden location to receive a message to eliminate Kisara. Meanwhile, Rentaro went to school to meet Tsubame Yuri, who helped him gather information about the sniper targeting Seitensi. During their meeting, he asked for her assistance in uncovering details about Sogen, the person who had ordered the sniper. After the discussion, Rentaro visited Sumire, who shared information about 3 mechanization soldiers like him created by Grunuel. Among them was Kagatane, whom Rentaro had previously defeated. Once Sumire finished her story, Rentaro planned to head home with Enju. However, Sumire requested that he leave Enju at the lab for further discussion. On another front, Tina communicated with Ain, who provided her with information about Kisara and Enju. Unfortunately, Tina accidentally dropped her cell phone just as Ain was about to reveal Enju's promoter, disconnecting the call. Without delay, Tina hurried to the civil security office and found Kisara at her desk, launching an immediate attack on her target. Kisara found herself cornered and called out for Rentaro's help. Rushing to her aid, Rentaro realized Tina was actually targeting Kisara and hesitated in his attacks. In her agility, Tina managed to escape from the scene. A little later, Rentaro and Enju returned to accompany Seitensi, who was preparing to meet Sogen once again. Upon their arrival, Tina opened fire on Seitensi. Fortunately, Rentaro quickly shielded Seitensi and escorted her to safety in a nearby parking lot, protecting her from Tina's shots. Rentaro and Enju assessed the situation, and Enju chased after the shooter. However, Seitensi warned Rentaro that Enju was facing a formidable mechanization soldier and urged him to call her back. Rentaro tried to contact Enju, but Tina answered the phone and dropped it. Following the incident, Rentaro and Kisara received distressing news about Enju's severe injuries, requiring intensive care for several days. Kisara also informed Rentaro about the upcoming third meeting between Seitensi and Sogen, scheduled for the following night, where Rentaro would need to prepare for his role as an escort. Overwhelmed, Rentaro collapsed into Kisara's arms. After leaving the hospital and waking up, Rentaro couldn't shake off thoughts about Enju and Tina's actions. At that moment, one of Seitensi's bodyguards named Yasukui Takuto approached Rentaro, taunting him for no longer being a bodyguard after losing his initiator. Irritated, Rentaro grabbed Takuto and asserted his dedication to protect Seitensi. Meanwhile, Tina received another call from her boss, who briefed her on the plans of Seitensi's bodyguards to safeguard the Tokyo area leaders. Ain expressed frustration that Tina hadn't eliminated the police and civilians who interfered with her mission. However, Tina attempted to deceive her boss by falsely claiming that she had taken care of them. Before ending the call, Ain ominously hinted that Tina might need to resort to extreme measures if she couldn't complete her mission. After the call ended, Tina left the building and triggered an explosion, hoping to avoid another confrontation with Rentaro. However, her hopes were dashed when he suddenly appeared, challenging her to continue their fight. The two engaged in battle, with Rentaro initially struggling against Tina's attacks. However, he discovered a hidden spot unnoticed by Shenfield, a surveillance camera tracking his movements. After disabling one Shenfield, Rentaro received a call from Miyuri, who informed him about Tina's use of a remote control weapon module. After the call, Rentaro tried to move, but several Shenfields reappeared, attacking him and forcing him to seek cover. Miyuri then provided information about the weapon's location, now on the school building's roof. Hurrying there, Rentaro disabled the Shenfields guarding it, using his sharpshooting skills to take out the floating surveillance cameras. Spotting Tina in a room, Rentaro pursued her, but she managed to elude him within the confines of the room. Meanwhile, Miyuri reminded him to remain vigilant. Suddenly, Tina reappeared and attacked him, rendering him unconscious. In that moment, Rentaro attempted to understand Tina's suffering. Simultaneously, a bright light emanated from him, which he used to subdue Tina, causing her to fall to a lower floor. As Tina pleaded for Rentaro to end her life, he refused. Their standoff was interrupted by Takuto and other guards aiming to eliminate Tina. Fortunately, Seitensi arrived, acknowledging Rentaro's capture of Tina and granting him a higher rank. With his elevated status, Rentaro outranked Takuto and the others, ordering them to release Tina. A week later, Rentaro received news that Sugen had returned to Osaka, complicating his efforts to gather evidence linking the middle-aged man to Ain, Tina's boss. Meanwhile, Tina was being held at the Holy Seitensi Palace, and Rentaro was considering ways to reduce her sentence. Upon arriving at the office, he was surprised to find Tina working there and having befriended Enju and Kisara. One evening, a troop was alarmed by a Gastrea attack that caused the explosion of a military facility. The next morning, Seitensi visited District 39, where Rentaro and Kisara had set up an improvised elementary school to educate the cursed children under Matsuzuki's care. After greeting all the children, Seitensi met with Rentaro and Kisara to discuss the Stage 4 Gastrea attack, which had inflicted significant damage to the new monolith they were constructing. This posed a substantial threat as it rendered the Tokyo area more susceptible to Gastrea attacks. To address this, Seitensi proposed forming an auxiliary group comprising civilian officers collaborating with the Japanese Air Force. She requested Rentaro to lead this group and assist the government in tackling the Gastrea threat during the construction of the new monolith wall. Upon returning home, Rentaro found Enju and Tina staying with him. They all relished a delicious pizza Tina had prepared and then took a break. Since Rentaro and Tina couldn't sleep, they engaged in conversation while admiring the beautiful night view from the window. Rentaro shared about the Gastrea attack that could potentially destroy the monolith, and Tina offered to help him with this issue. The next morning, reports surfaced in the media about the activist leader opposing the cursed children's demise, sparking rumors that the cursed children might be responsible for the murder. Meanwhile, Rentaro invited Tina on a trip and started assembling a team to establish an auxiliary group. During their journey, they encountered cursed children singing beautifully. Among them, Rentaro noticed a unique girl with her eyes covered by a cloth. This intrigued him as cursed children weren't supposed to suffer from ailments. The girl revealed that she had deliberately injured her eye because her mother rejected her for having red eyes, leading to her expulsion from home. Concerned about the area's safety, particularly after the activist's death, Rentaro advised the girl to seek a safer place. Soon after, Rentaro and Tina proceeded on their journey and reached the residence of Katagiri Tamaki, another promoter. Initially met with resistance from Tamaki's younger sister and initiator, Katagiri Yuzuki, they were eventually granted entry by Tamaki. Rentaro suggested that Tamaki join their auxiliary group, but upon Tamaki's refusal, they decided to settle the matter through a duel. After an intense confrontation, Rentaro emerged victorious with his promise, persuading Tamaki to join. Meanwhile, Tina engaged in combat with Yuzuki and emerged victorious as well, convincing both sisters to join the auxiliary group. The next day, Rentaro brought Tina to meet Sumire to discuss the Gastrea attack. Tina had initially resigned from the Civil Security Service to shield Rentaro and others from danger. However, Rentaro encouraged her to rediscover her passion for protecting everyone. While Tina rested, Sumire cautioned Rentaro against becoming too involved with the cursed children due to their differences. Nonetheless, Rentaro remained resolute in his determination to defeat Gastrea and ensure the cursed children's liberation. Sumire also shared the latest update about the monolith wall, which had turned white and collapsed. With this news spreading, Seitensi decided to address the situation officially through a live broadcast, despite having to shoulder the burden alone. A few days later, Rentaro and Tamaki convened at the designated meeting spot for the auxiliary group, discussing the idea of using exams to identify potential candidates for underground protection. Meanwhile, Tina, Enju, and Yuzuki set up a basic tent as they were not formally registered as auxiliary members. Previously, Rentaro and Enju scouted for potential members at a competition arena, where Brick Nigel and Idiso Shoma were engaged in a fierce duel. Impressed by Shoma's skills, Rentaro offered him a place in the auxiliary group, which Shoma gladly accepted, eager to contribute. Later that night, Tamaki and Yuzuki arrived with new tents for everyone. Sitting around a campfire, Kisara realized that Rentaro still needed more members to complete the team and volunteered to join, with Tina as her initiator. While they chatted, a member of the security forces delivered a message from Commander Gagu Nagasama, summoning all civil officers to gather at the central headquarters. Upon arriving at the headquarters yard, Nagasama delivered an inspiring speech, urging everyone to be ready for action when called upon. Rentaro suggested relocating their camp closer to the Gastrea's nest for a potential surprise attack. After this discussion, Rentaro and the team regrouped, boosting each other's morale for the upcoming battle against the Gastrea. The following day, as they awaited orders from Nagasama, Rentaro and Kisara conducted classes for the cursed children, encouraging them to write down their dreams on paper. Witnessing the children eagerly express their aspirations, Rentaro decided to take them on an outing to visit the Fire Revolution Monument. That evening, while everyone was asleep, Rentaro and Kisara walked to the monolith wall, now turned white by the Varanium-destroying liquid from the Gastrea. Rentaro noticed that only part of Monolith 32 was damaged, suggesting the Gastrea forces might have hesitated before attacking other sections. They conversed, then lay on the grass, sharing their concerns. Rentaro held Kisara's hand, promising to protect her and the others. The next day, Rentaro headed to the underground protection area. On the way, he encountered the blind girl he'd met before, being harassed by a group. Stepping in, he showed his civil officer badge, dispersing the bullies. The girl recognized Rentaro by his voice and touch, apologizing for the trouble before he urged her to return home. Upon returning to camp, Rentaro found Tina, Enju, and Kisara together. Kisara seemed disappointed because the children weren't as interested in studying with her. Soon after, Tamaki arrived with an envelope containing details about Monolith 32. Unexpectedly, Kisara threw the paper into the bonfire before leaving. Rentaro managed to salvage the remaining paper, revealing Tendu Kazumitsu as the builder of Monolith 32. On another occasion, Rentaro and Enju visited the cursed children's school. Enju was excited to see her friends again, but was shocked to find the area guarded by police due to an explosion. Bloodstains were visible, and Rentaro hurried to find Matsuzuki sitting silently. Upon further investigation, Rentaro discovered several cursed children who had been affected by the blast. Enju, not fully understanding the situation, begged Rentaro to enter the room, where she eventually screamed in anguish at the sight of her friends' lifeless bodies. Feeling disheartened, Rentaro sat on the rooftop, observing as the papers containing the dreams of the cursed children scattered in the wind. Kisara contacted him, informing him about the camp's situation, where a bomb had been discovered. Rentaro suspected it was the work of anti-cursed children factions. Kisara advised him to remain calm and not let his emotions overpower him. From the rooftop, Rentaro observed Monolith 32 deteriorating faster than anticipated. Rushing to find Enju, he urged her to leave quickly. As they approached the camp, they witnessed a fierce battle between the military and Gastrea, culminating in a massive explosion. Rentaro decided they should act independently due to the escalating chaos. They successfully defeated several Gastrea before returning to the camp, only to discover it overrun by the creatures. Rentaro directed his companions to the underground protection area immediately, confronting the overwhelming horde of Gastrea. At the protection area, Enju and Kisara collaborated to assist the injured. Sumire sought refuge there as well. Later, Rentaro and the others settled on using an abandoned house as their temporary base. After tidying up and lighting a fire, they gathered for dinner, discussing the recent Gastrea attack. During their conversation, a guard interrupted and summoned Rentaro to meet Nagasama. In a private meeting, Nagasama expressed his disapproval of Rentaro's independent actions and disbanded the auxiliary group, condemning its members to death. Despite Rentaro's objections, Nagasama, an initiator himself, attacked and subdued him. Nagasama proposed a deal: spare their lives if Rentaro agreed to infiltrate enemy territory and eliminate the Pleiades, a powerful Gastrea controlling others, to pave the way for Nagasama's forces to attack Aldebaran, the main Gastrea leader. Returning to the base, Rentaro found his comrades asleep. He attempted to slip away quietly, but Kisara intercepted him, aware of Nagasama's ultimatum. She implored him to reconsider, but Rentaro felt accountable for the group's predicament and pressed on. He left her behind and ventured towards the enemy's base. During his journey, Rentaro encountered Gastrea pursuing him, forcing him to seek refuge in a river to avoid their attacks. When he woke up, he was surprised to find Kagetane and Kohina treating his injuries. That night, Kagetane once again proposed an alliance, but Rentaro refused once more. The next morning, Rentaro found Kagetane and Kohina waiting for him outside a cave. Claiming they shared objectives, they traveled together until they confronted the Pleiades. Rentaro and Kagetane worked together to defeat the creature. Later, Rentaro tried to launch a missile at Aldebaran, but their efforts were futile as the creature remained impervious. Rentaro remembered Nagasama's warning about Aldebaran's immortality. Back at the devastated camp, Kisara informed him of Nagasama's death and appointed Rentaro as the new war commander. The following day, Rentaro and his comrades gathered at the Flame Revolution Monument to devise a plan against Aldebaran. They waited under the cover of darkness while lanterns, released by the city's residents as a symbol of hope, lit up the sky. Seitensi contacted Rentaro, entrusting Tokyo's future to him and his team. As the Gastrea approached, the troops engaged in combat, with Rentaro and Enju advancing towards Aldebaran's location. Despite their initial attempt to detonate a bomb inside the creature's mouth failing, they managed to activate it with a direct attack. However, Aldebaran retaliated with Varanium-destroying liquid, leaving Rentaro vulnerable. Shoma intervened, allowing Rentaro to trigger the bomb, resulting in Aldebaran's demise and the creation of a massive crater. Several days later, Kisara confronted Kazumitsu about the substandard materials used in Monolith 32, making it vulnerable to Gastrea attacks. Kazumitsu admitted to engineering the attack that killed Kisara's parents, attributing it to pressure from Kisara's father for exposing the Tendu family's wrongdoing. Kisara challenged Kazumitsu to avenge her parents and emerged victorious after a fierce confrontation. In the conclusion of the anime, Seitensi announces a new beginning for Tokyo after their victory over Gastrea. Rentaro and Enju set out on a train journey to the Holy Palace, where Enju is to be honored by Seitensi. However, their trip is disrupted by an accident at the 3rd District Station. Reflecting on the loss of their friends from the emergency school, Enju finds comfort in Rentaro's presence. He admits his fear of losing her, but Enju reassures him of their enduring connection, promising to stay together forever. So the moral of the story is always double-check your pizza ingredients. You never know when your toppings might turn into a Gastrea.